Welcome back to the Nullified Take channel on YouTube, where we've got the TNT takes for you on Survivor 46, episode 11. That is right. I'm your host, Chris, and with me again today is my co-host, Kahuna, holding it down while Jakey Boy is over in Hawaii having some really good time, like obviously having a bit of a break, but we're going to hold the fort down for him while he's not here, Kahuna.
Mate, if I had the chance to be Hawaii right now, I'd do that too. I think I always, whenever I'm on with Jake, we always talk about just slip in a little bit of basketball talk because he's a Phoenix Suns guy, I'm an LA Lakers guy, and
And it's a
both of
perfect
our
opportunity because I don't watch, so you're like, finally we can get our basketball chat on.
this is it here. We could, but it's off season for them, for our teams too. They got knocked out early, and the whole thing is like the joke is, they're either going to Cancun, they're going to Hawaii. I think Jake is like copying the Phoenix Suns and is heading to Hawaii for his getting knocked out of the playoffs, end of season holiday. That's what it is for him.
I feel like we really dropped the ball on this season and not doing a draft. You know, obviously time didn't work out, like busy schedules, things like that. But when you've got the draft going, I feel like we wouldn't have seen Jake. Like, you know, even if he was in Hawaii, he would have jumped on and he would have wanted to know where he's at and the points. Maybe he wouldn't have been because he probably was happy we didn't do it because he got slaughtered in the last two drafts that we did. I even got a bit of a break from you beating my ass in the bloody drafts as well.
Maybe my draft success is Survivor only because on the challenge side, I'm not doing too good at the moment.
100%. Yeah, that's true. Let's have a look at who's in the live. There's a bunch of people here already. Kiwi is in the live saying, please like and subscribe and share. Yes, we don't normally ask for this up front, so please consider that if you do like this channel. And if you want to support the growth of this channel, it's absolutely free. And we hope that we deserve or we earn that subscription by the end of this live today. We've got Chris back as well saying, excited for another Survivor chat. Chris, thank you so much. Back to back, like a lot of the familiar names here with challenge content and also Survivor content today. We really appreciate the support. Daryl saying, third time in a row, never happened before. So this season is a record-breaking season for all of the wrong reasons when it comes to the players. We spoke a little bit about this last week, Kahuna, with how the new players just can't seem to figure out how to play idols or not use it to their, they're just not using the tools correctly, I feel like, in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And completely, all three of them, unforced errors, like super unnecessary. Venus made it even worse this week for herself, the way she played it. So it's just fascinating to watch when you have what everyone in Survivor World knows as the ultimate advantage. It's like your power in the game, and they just keep it in their pocket the entire time while they watch from the jury. It's man, unless they want to keep it for like eBay afterwards or something like that. Like, I don't know, but it's so weird.
The crazy gameplay of the season and how people are just absolutely failing out there has inspired me to do a reverse draft next season when we do our draft. So the aim of it will be the person who gets the least amount of points will win the season. I reckon that's what we have to do for the next one. So we have to try and predict who the players are going to be that are going to fail. So you need to pick those players early that you think are going to go home early. Your aim is going to be to actually earn the least amount of points. Like, I reckon that could be a fun one. We've never done that before.
You know what?
But this season has inspired me, Kuna.
Just do a random draw. It'll be probably more successful than putting any actual thought or process into the draft. Because, like, if we had actually drafted this, I know generally for Survivor, we don't have the same background knowledge we do with like the challenge. So you kind of just going based off first impressions and reading a bit of a blurb and a bio, and you try to make an educated decision based on a very tiny amount of data set. This season, it would have been all out the window. It would have just been, nothing would have mattered. We don't know what the hell's going on. It would have just picked out of a rock, paper,
100%.
scissors.
I mean, clearly, Jake would have had Banu as his number one pick based on the preseason, and it would have been all downhill from there for Jakey Boy. This is what happens, Jake, when you don't show up for the podcast. We get to bully you a little bit on the live because you can't defend yourself. Carlene is saying, New Brunswick, Canada. I'm looking forward to my favorite Survivor podcast. Thanks in advance, Carlene. Welcome. Welcome back all the way from Canada. We really appreciate the support. Darren is here as well saying 3 in a row with an idol in their pocket for total on the jury. Absolutely crazy. Rock, paper, scissors, also known as sinking your game. We will be talking about that a little bit later on because what an episode, and what an interesting angle, I would say, Maria chose with the rock, paper, scissors. YouTube Bearcat saying, Chris, tell Drew I didn't say Laurel and Drew. It was supposed to be Laurel and Derek. Well, and Darren saying, I actually see a way for Q to win, going for Charlie, but Q definitely has a path. I just think Q has a path to the end, Kuna. But does Q have a path to win the show? That's a stretch. Like, who does Q need to sit? Like, I love Q. Don't get me wrong. I think a lot of audience members, I know there are some people in the audience who actually does believe he's a bad person based on the things that Venus and those people are saying, which I don't believe. But I just don't see how this cast votes for Q at the end. Like, who would he need to sit next to potentially have a shot at winning the game? That's my question.
He would need a 2-person final only, and it has to be Liz.
Right.
Like, that's the only potential. Like, even then, I don't think I would still think Liz is ahead. In the jury's
I think Q wins,
but yeah,
Liz doesn't need the money. Like, if I had to choose between, if I had to choose between, and I don't dislike either of, like, Liz, I can tell Liz would be someone that would grind my gears in real life, definitely. But if I had to choose between two players that I equally didn't like at the end, I would be like, okay, so, well, who actually deserves the money more at this point? Who can do something with that money? I really don't care for either or. And I think Q would surely win in that scenario because Liz has told them about all of her businesses and how much money she's got. Like, I mean, some top tier Survivor gameplay there from Liz. Q say, although I'm not happy at all when Charlie's name is brought up. Not sure what that's referencing to, but we will be talking a lot about Charlie because I felt like this was Charlie's episode and we all were just living in it this episode. Like, a lot of that Charlie strategy came into play this episode. Jay saying, damn it, Chris, play the idol. Yes, everybody should play the idol. Okay, so let's see. Nunez is here saying, hey, Chris and Kahuna and the chat. Carlene says, like Venus said, Maria went from a hero to a villain pretty fast. And I don't know, Carlene, if you're a person who loves the heroes or the villains, but just in case you didn't know, I love the villains. So when Maria was mentioned as a villain, I was like, she's starting to look pretty attractive to me at the moment in the game. I'm really enjoying this villainous Maria gameplay that we're seeing. So it's almost like it's like having how you get like the cool kid club, and then there's just the non, I don't know what you would call them, those that are not in the cool kid club. Like, when somebody calls you a villain in Survivor, you suddenly become part of the cool kid club, Kahuna.
Is that what it is? You know what my thing is? I don't think I have a preference for heroes or villains. I just like to see really smart, good gameplay by either side. You know what I mean? Like, if someone's going to be a villain,
so you'd have to go back 10 seasons for that, Kuna. Like, you're in the wrong era.
Pretty much, yeah. I just want to see like good gameplay, even if it's from a villain being sneaky and shady. If it's smart, then I'm down. And I didn't see a lot of smart play even with Maria's villain turn here.
Yeah. No, I mean, listen, Maria's got a lot of the ingredients that a top tier Survivor player needs. Only problem is a lot of people are noticing her at this stage in the game. So does she have gas in the tank to get to the end? That is the question that we will try and answer in this podcast here today. Danica saying, I'm here just getting my computer set up. At least this time I remember to bring the power cord to the beach. Wow, watching. I'm assuming you're not on the beach, but you're somewhere close to the beach at a holiday home or something. I'm just like thinking, how do you put up the computer on the beach watching the live stream? That would be dedication to the next level, to be honest. Sarah saying, hi, Chris and Kid, my favorite Australians. New season name, season 46, Curse of the Idols, or play your damn idol. Totally true. Sarah, thank you so much for being back in the live with us as well. Yeah. We've got Victoria back as well.
You're an Australian, Chris, by the way. I like that.
Listen, I've been called British, I've been called Kiwi, I've been called and I can forgive Sarah for it because I live in Australia now. So I am technically, I'm a resident of Australia. Another 3.5 years from now, and I'll be a citizen of Australia. Then I can be called a full Australian. But
then you know what? You'll be my favorite Aussie too. You're going to go ahead of of all the Chris's. There's Chris Hemsworth, and then it's Chris from TNT for sure.
Yeah, so
Like,
no competition, right? I mean, geez, put me up against Chris Hemsworth. What an easy win. Like that's actually, now that I think about it, that's tough. That's tough to become like the favorite Chris, because there's so many cool Chris's out there. Like
specifically Aussie Chris as well.
yeah, yeah. Victoria, welcome to the live, saying hello everyone. This last episode really had me ticked off. Can't wait to hear everyone's thoughts. Victoria, you're gonna have to you can't leave us on what's she doing to us here, Kuna? She's leaving
Yeah.
us on a cliffhanger. She's not telling us what made her ticked off.
What?
I
What?
need to know.
Yeah. I don't think I'm ticked off at this episode. I was like, I was kind of
no.
giddy with how silly and fun it was, how bad some of the stuff is. I get excited and laugh at it. I'm like, I did get like I do the no, we're like, what?
Yeah.
What are you doing? But I like that.
Yeah, it's like, no, what are you doing? And then you're like,
Yeah.
still watch, like you're closing your eyes, but you've got like the little, you're still squidging through. It's like you want to watch, but you don't want to watch some of the strategy that's happening. That's exactly where I was as well. Danny is saying, my sister's on her way to New Zealand, Australia. She messaged me from LAX. Lucky her. Yes, and I still need to send some recommendations out to her. It's been a busy week on my side, Danica, but I will get in touch and send some recommendations for what she can do on this side here. I hope she has a great time over in New Zealand and Australia. It's two great countries to come and visit. And who else do we have here? We've got Andy also saying, finally catching this live. Welcome to the live. We love seeing new faces. I don't know if I've seen you in the live before, actually. But let's get up to speed. Chris is saying, if anyone doesn't watch the secret scenes, you should for this week. There was a great one between Q and Liz about their background growing up. Right. Okay. And this is where I get caught out because I only watch the episodes, and then I've got people who have seen some of these scenes. So it'd be interesting to see sort of what the connection is there between the two of them, because I know Liz had a tough upbringing. She spoke about it a little bit, right? In some of the earlier episodes where she said we had a food shortage growing up. So it makes me believe that she didn't grow up in an extremely wealthy house, right? Even though she's got some money now, she's had to work for it. And it's a lot of the times the people who struggle the most are the ones that actually make that leap, you know what I mean? Like, and actually become, not all of them, but it kind of gives them that drive, I would almost say, to not have their kids go through the same situation or to try and get out of it, But yeah, I'd love to see what that is about. Let's start off. Here we go. Victoria's coming in with the receipts. Love it, love it. So let's see. Victoria says, ticked off that Q continues to slide through, upset with the reward challenges. Venus, dumb move. So that's fair. That's fair. There's a lot of people. I'm not a part of your club, Victoria, in regards to not liking Q. I think the longer Q is there, I enjoy the chaos that he brings, but I just love players that bring emotion, either good or bad, in my opinion. That's good casting. Like, and he hasn't done anything for me on a personal note yet that I've seen where I'm like, he's a bad person. Like, I just haven't seen it yet, right? And it's not saying that he hasn't done it. We just haven't seen it on screen, at least. But yeah, like, everybody has their favorites, and I can understand how that can be frustrating. I think that the players around Q, like, as frustrating as it is to have a player in the game that maybe you don't like, you have to give credit, right, Kahuna, to the players around Q that is using him as the smokescreen now for how many tribal councils in a row is this? Like 5?
Yeah, 100%. Like, that's the way to play it. I was actually watching it last night with my wife. And she was like just watching it, and I was explaining. I go, when Venus found the idol, I was like, oh, I don't know if that's good. Like, I can't believe she found it. Blah, blah. And she's like, why, you don't like her? I'm like, oh, I don't care either way. And then Q was talking. I go, this guy, everyone hates him. And she goes, I would be so bad at this game. I was like, why? She goes, because I would just want to get rid of the person that annoys me, like, immediately. And like, you all see what they're doing here is everyone hates him, so you keep him and take him further because there's no way. And she's like, yeah, I would suck at this game. I just want to get rid of the person I hate immediately. Like, that's such an instinct to overcome, I think, in a game where you're living with them 24/7. So you're right. Like, to be able to do that means you're a smarter player. And it really feels like at the moment what we're seeing is people like Maria and Charlie who are willing to embrace Q playing chess, not checkers. They're really kind of running circles around the rest of these players, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that there are levels to this game, and if you had to look at it right now, you'd have to say Maria and Charlie are just next level. And I'm really interested to see how that game is going to play out between Maria and Charlie. And we saw a little bit of that throughout this episode that we'll definitely get into. But a couple more great comments coming in here. And I have to bring them up. Georgette saying Q said the same, grew up poor, food shortage. So it gives us a little bit of an insight. Sarah says that's true, Chris. They actually show them having a heart-to-heart and making up in the secret scene. So it makes you wonder, are they not winning because they cut it? I have always known that Liz is not winning this season. Q, I just... like Kuna said, I just don't see it. Like, people don't like him. A majority of these people don't like them. And a lot of people who ended up on the jury, he blew up their game, right? So who's going to vote for him at the end? He at one point even wanted to go home. Like, let's not forget about that. Even though it was his moral compass, and he could say, like, I just wanted to make up for, betraying people in the game. But then afterwards, suddenly, I don't know. He's a complex character, because now he's okay with taking food from someone who's starving on the island, and he laughs about it. But he wanted to quit. And that's why I like him, because I'm like, this guy is so evil. Like, he
smiled through when he
I'm still full from the previous reward, but I know Liz really wanted it. And then he laughs at the camera while saying it. And I'm like, okay, now I see why you're the villain.
Yeah, that was great.
But he's like, I will admit, when he started talking to the camera, I was like, finally, we get some Q content, because he wasn't in the episode for like the first 40 minutes or something.
Yeah.
So it's good to see. And then Chris says, yes, it was about how Q was trying to repair the relationship with Liz, how they both grew up poor and worked hard to become business owners. They both overcame a lot, and Q wants Liz to see him as an equal. Right. Yeah. Daryl says, Q's the nicest person there. That is a hot take. Is he nicer than... Like, I love Q.
Charlie's pretty nice.
Yeah, I was going to say, is he nicer than Charlie?
Nice.
But like, you know what? Charlie would be the guy I'd be afraid of out there, because he's everybody's friend. He's always in all the conversations. We see a lot of it this episode, Kahuna, talking about this episode.
You know what I remembered about Charlie this episode? Is he doing that thing again, which I always find annoying, but it seemed to work last season at least? Is Charlie's a secret lawyer? Isn't he? Like, he's at Harvard. I think he's doing law school at Harvard, and he's not telling anyone he's a lawyer. He's doing that thing. I'm not going to tell anyone I'm a lawyer. But he at least didn't play up that.
He doesn't have Kachura out there, right?
Yeah, that's right.
If Kachura was out there, she would have pinned him. She would have been like, "This guy's a lawyer. Can't trust him."
He's done it well. Like, yeah.
Yeah. No, I wanted to talk about Charlie a little bit, because this was a Charlie heavy episode, but like very early on in the episode, we see him kind of like letting people know outside of the group, like, Kenzie's back at camp. She's devastated, like we would say in Australia, Devo. She's Devo about the outcome of the vote. See, my Australian lingo is coming along, Kuna. Pretty soon I will be able to call myself an Australian. But yeah, like I said, she's devastated. And he goes there and takes an opportunity to try and repair that relationship, and immediately paint a nice red bullseye on Maria's back by saying, this was not my move. I wasn't in the driver's seat last night. And he continues to do that throughout this episode very deliberately. What do you think about this strategy from the young man, Charlie?
Brilliant from Charlie. Like, there's been so much talk about resume building and resume, and he's like, that's fine. I don't need to claim it. I don't need the credit. I'll take your resume off you at the end when I vote you out, which is like the best way to do it. Like, if he's happy to let Maria take that heat and sit in the passenger seat a little bit, then when he actually gets Maria out, he inherits that resume. Like, he's like with her the entire way, was with her all the moves, he can say blah, blah, like, and Maria, I don't think, can necessarily debate that, especially if she's sitting in the jury. Like, he can still, like, in her eyes, they're probably pretty equal, but he's painted in everyone else's eyes that it's not, that Maria's the evil person, get her out, and then he can claim it from there. So it's really, really great gameplay from Charlie. I don't know how much of it is actually just gameplay, because he painted Maria with that target multiple times. And after the reward challenge, very believably, like, I thought he was angry as well. Like, it really came across he was pissed off, not just doing the diversion.
I think he kind of was. Yeah. I kind of think there was a little bit of animosity there, because how would you feel if you've been this person's ride or die person? You've been the Malcolm to their Denise, and you've been playing this season the whole time with them, and then you obviously tell her like, listen, I'm not gonna stand in the way here. Like I'll buy out of this one. You don't need to choose me to go with you on the reward. But she then goes and chooses her new best friend, right? Like
Yeah.
I feel like there is an element of jealousy there, and for good reason. Like, normally you'd be like, he's just jealous, but it's like Q's getting really close to Maria, and Maria, like, she's like, I trust him. He trusts me. He's not going to go anywhere. And probably Maria knows that Q's got less options than Charlie. Like,
Yeah.
she's a savvy player. I'm sure she knows that Charlie is having multiple conversations with the enemy on the beach. She probably sees it. He's probably telling her, don't worry, I'm just keeping them feeling like they're comfortable or something. But Q's not doing that. Like, who would you rather have at the person at this moment, the person with options or the person who don't have options? So I feel like there's so many layers to this game that is being played out here, and I could understand why Charlie was kind of pissed off, to be honest. And just to touch on the whole thing you talked about in regards to not caring about having a resume. This is the thing that annoyed me so much about Kenzie's strategy, which I know some people have thought about Kenzie being a winner this season. I've never seen her as the winner, but I also wouldn't have been shocked if she does win based on the way that Survivor US edits the show and having had so many shocking winners in the past. Like, it would not have shocked me to see another shocking winner. But her strategy of saying, hey, I need to get my best friend out of the game to build a resume. No, that's not how you build a resume, by voting out a best friend. It's like, if that best friend, like Maria, has got a resume and the time is right, like what Charlie's doing, like you just explained there, that is how you build a resume. The person that you're taking out actually has had to have done something in the game for it to be a big move. And until that point, Tiff wasn't a big move. Tiff had done nothing. Like, I mean, she survived with them in the pre-merge and she had an idol. And yes, you would have voted out someone with an idol. But I still don't look at that as a great move from a Kenzie's perspective. It's a great move from Maria's perspective because she was never close to Tiff. So I feel like depending on who's taking out the person with the idol and the relationship that's involved there, it could still have different levels of bragging rights when it comes to the end. Does that make sense, Kuna?
Yeah, absolutely. And like, you also have to think, like, if you're making a move, what is the purpose of that move, right? And his description of what her motivation was like, oh, in Survivor, if you take out your closest ally, that's seen as a big move. Well, it's only a big move if it actually provides some like reason or purpose, or like puts you further in the game. By voting out Tiff and claiming that as your move, she actually hurt her own game. But by taking out Maria at the right time, which Charlie keeps going on about, you got to, like, I love that bit, by the way, when he's like, we got to bide our time. And Vina's like, there's only 6 days left. Like, what
Yeah.
And he's like, well, the right time. And he's right. Like Maria's his closest ally, but getting her out won't be just because it's your closest ally, for no other reason than your closest ally. But like you said, taking out the biggest player in the games with the biggest moves that you were a part of, and blah blah blah. Like, that's the different thing. Like, taking out my ally just because they're my ally is silly and stupid. But taking out my ally who happens to be the biggest threat in the game, then there's a reason behind it, right? And Charlie saying that, I don't think Kenzie saw that. So I think Maria probably also knows as well. Like, when you were saying that, she's sort of maybe thinking Charlie is not as, or Q is a lot less flexible than Charlie and less of a threat than Charlie. She's got to be seeing that too. And Charlie would know that she sees that. So there is certainly levels to it, which is, but I guess the sad thing is that we're only seeing it from these two people. Like, as far
And
as
at the
that game,
moment, it's looking like Charlie's ahead of Maria. Like, it's
it
looking
does.
like, but there is a next on Survivor scene with Maria, like being very upset, saying that it broke her heart, or she felt like there was something there where she's in tears, and I feel like she's going to find out Charlie's been scheming. I think this episode has like that's the danger of the game that Charlie's been playing this last week, because he's been. Yeah, he's been talking to so many people. Information is going to leak because he ultimately didn't go with the plan to get Q out. So what loyalty does Kenzie have to Charlie after this? Like, she could be honest. Like, it's now survival of the fittest. Like, how do you ensure you're not the next target? Well, throw a target on someone else. It's the oldest play in the book. So I do think in my mind, Maria is still the person to beat. Like, I feel like, Charlie definitely can do it, depending on if that information leaks or not. But not pulling the move here, it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Like, luckily, Ben was in on it. So Ben was like, it's a move too early to go after Q. But I don't know how Ben would feel about Charlie betraying Maria. That's going to be the real difference.
And then we're in a position, especially if we do it this week, where the numbers start. Like Charlie even said, like at 6 you need 4-2 to be able to get it, but really at 7 you need 4-3 because unless he's right, like 4-2 would get it at 6. But if you look at who the two are, is he going to be able to get Ben across to go against Maria and Q? Because he's not getting Q across to go against Maria, so he has to get Ben, and that's a tough call with the way Ben has been. At least what he's given us the entire season is
very trustworthy, honest.
Yeah, like I don't know. So really, this could have been the moment, especially when you had those 4 angry back at camp. He's laying the foundation. He's putting it in there how Maria's this, but I think that was the shot. I think that was the time. And you're right. Maybe he left it a little bit too late, but we'll see.
Listen, we're going to get into a little bit more because I've got my thoughts on maybe why Charlie ended up keeping the bullet in the chamber. Because I feel like there was a specific moment that made him retreat a little bit, and we'll talk about that. The Fairy Tiger Wolf is in the house. How's it going, my friend? Saying hello, everyone. Much improved season. Glad you're enjoying it, Fairy Tiger. Gabe is saying Charlie has to get Maria out because if he reaches the end with her, it's over. Be like Albert, who promised I will make a move on coach and never did. Yeah, it's actually a good one to bring up. Like Albert was another one where he got our hopes up every single week and then never pulled the trigger. And you don't want to be an Albert, that's for sure. Let's see what else people are saying here. Andy is saying it seems like Charlie is a smart player. I agree. In the beginning, I was kind of lowish on Charlie because the only content we got was Taylor Swift. We even got a Taylor Swift bit in this episode again, but you're starting to see a little bit more of the player that Charlie is now. And he's so bloody good at the challenges as well, which is something I didn't expect. Like even in this immunity challenge, he was right in it. It's the first person through the obstacle course part of it, and the balancing and everything, and then obviously lost at the maze. YouTube Bear Gat says, but haven't Maria and Charlie been keeping their relationship a secret so no one else will target them? I think to a degree they don't seem to talk all the time, but people do know that Charlie is close to Maria because they talk about it throughout the episode the whole time. They're like, oh, sorry, I know you're close to Maria.
Yeah, when there's only 7 left, you can see where the relationships are, you know what I mean?
Sarah says, I thought Kenzie was winning, but after this episode, I think Charlie's going to get Maria and Q out and win. Maybe. I honestly don't know. If Liz wins, please do a wellness check. I might be on my floor. Listen, I think there's going to have to be a lot of wellness checks happening if that happens. I just can't see Liz pulling this one off. If Liz did win this one, it may be the most shocking win of all time. And there's been some shocking wins over the years. So I would be here for it from a shock factor, but I just can't see it happening. Daryl saying, I don't think Charlie was mad at Maria. He was happy because it lessens his connection to Maria in the other people's eyes. I think it was a combination of both, Daryl. I think like he was kind of upset, but it made it easier for him to act it up because there was like an element of it. So I feel like he probably played it, and I definitely feel like he used that as strategy to continue to show like, hey, I am willing to work with you guys against Maria if I needed to. Danica saying Charlie is smart. He's stepping aside, lets someone else eat, thinking she'd pick Liz or Venus, and then makes him look good to them. Same for Kenzie. Yep, definitely. And I guess just before we get into the eating challenge, there's a few more comments I want to bring up here before we get into it, because I want to talk about the idol hunting next. Sarah here says, I think if Maria doesn't win immunity, she's gone because it was who she picked. It was the fact that she said, I want to give this to the person who hasn't eaten. Yes. And I can see a lot of people want to talk about that. So we're going to bring up, I believe, they're going to bring up the whole choice with the rock, paper, scissors and everything as well. But let's talk about the idol hunting for a second here. I love the editors. You know, like the editors, they know what they're doing. They've been doing this season the show for a very long time, Kuna. And like when everybody's out like hunting, trying to get the idol, talking about it, and they're like, where's Liz? and Liz is sleeping in camp, and it's got like the very peaceful, calming, soothing music playing while she's like having a nap in camp. Like, what a great TV moment. Like, this is what
Yeah.
makes Survivor great, is that they can find these little moments and just add so much additional just by like something like music, setting the right tone. But bad on Liz for not even being out there, getting her ass up. There's another reason she should not win this season. She's not
Yeah.
hustling.
She's never done it. The great thing about the editors is, like, honestly, we don't know if it was actually at that moment when they're hunting that Liz was sleeping. They just got that. They could have got that sleeping footage at any point and put it in there. Like, that's how it works. But knowing Liz the way we've seen her gameplay and stuff, it would not surprise me at all. But that was absolutely the way it played out.
Yeah, 100%. But were you shocked when Venus, like you mentioned it briefly, Venus is the one who found the idol? Were you shocked she was the one who ended up getting it with so many people being out there?
No, well, I really appreciated the fact that she was like, she was with Randon when he found it.
Yeah.
She where Tiff found it. So she said, like, I know this. I have the knowledge, and she kind of used that, which I thought was really smart. She knows how they hide it and where to kind of look. I don't necessarily know in an island if those two examples is enough data set to give you that insight, and it was just luck based. But the fact that she was there for 2 idol finds is pretty impressive, and to bring that along and get it, I think that's great. And it really was, like, as far as the way the show was playing out, it should have been the best idol find as well. Like, for Venus to have that power, just
Yeah.
completely misplayed. Like, it was great as far as the show goes for her to get it. And have the potential 2 vote offs to have the idol. So I love
Yeah.
that. It just, yeah.
It's just interesting. I feel like again, there's this thing that plays in your mind, which is knowledge is power, right? It can
Mm,
always be there. If people know you've got the idol, you could lose it. Maybe that's still played in Venus's decision not to let people know about the idol. Probably it played in her decision not to go into tribal council, pulling it out, putting it around her neck. She could only play it for one more vote after this, I believe. So,
yeah.
why not just take it out saying, hey, I found this. I'm going to play it tonight. I am definitely safe. I don't care. And then don't play it. Like, try and bluff them at least. They'll do something last minute to get some crazy shenanigans happening at tribal council. But now with all these additional advantages that are in the game, like knowledge is power, for instance, that could be a death sentence doing that, which again is why in Australian Survivor we see those kind of bombastic moves happening a lot more often, because there isn't as many trinkets to be aware of in the game that allows for a better outcome, I think, strategically in the game. Like, I just think that with the amount of different things we're throwing in the game, you never truly know who's got what. And Venus even creates some of that uncertainty herself this episode, like Taku said, that could still have ramifications in the game, right? So Taku here says, could Venus's advantage be good enough as a scapegoat reason to keep Liz and Kenzie on the board? Because she obviously, and this is what I was alluding to, I know we're going all over the place here, but since Taku's brought it up, I feel like this is the thing that made Charlie pull back. Like, Charlie was definitely considering working with Venus and those ladies to get to like a final 4 situation or to vote some people out here, but her not being open and honest about what she had him pull back, and he's like, I don't know if I can fully trust her in the game. So very interesting. Like he said, every action in Survivor has a reaction, and what will be the reaction of her saying there's an advantage in the game and not basically saying that it's her? Because Charlie sort of mentions, well, maybe one of the other girls have got an advantage in the game.
That's the complete unforced error. She didn't commit to it, right? You either shut up, don't say anything to Charlie, or tell him what's going on so you can actually leverage that, rather than the in between of, don't worry, there's something up my sleeve. Like, we're safe, we're good to the final 4. And Charlie's like, just his head is doing all the calculations in it. Like, what if it's like a knowledge of power? What if it's what if it's a Tyler Perry, like, super idol? Like, he's just freaking out because he's trying to, what does she got? What does she got? What does she got? She's clearly got something, and she's not telling me. It must be big. That's scary because of the unknown. If she just committed to it and said, look, Charlie, this is how in I am with you. I found it. Let's use it. Let's do something with it. Or don't tell him anything at all. It's either one, but not that in between, causing doubt, causing fear, and complete uncertainty. Especially, like, the timing wise, like, before tribal without the time to digest it properly, or do it at tribal to cause the chaos that you talked about. But giving Charlie that time to just worry and be scared about it, like, really sealed her own fate. I think, like, it was
Yeah.
such a poor choice there.
I think in a game like Survivor, where there's so many uncertainties, if there is a certainty on the board and you have worked with certain people before and there's a level of comfort, you're always going to gravitate towards the comfort. Like there's a
Yeah,
lot of things that are out of your control in Survivor. Your goal as a player is to try and find the controllables and work with those. And Venus threw an uncontrollable in front of him that he didn't understand. Like he's like, I could move against Q here, but there could be ramifications to this that I don't understand today. There's
yeah,
factors in play here I don't get. So I think that was a very complex and interesting conversation that definitely sealed her fate in the game. Our Nunes here is asking, is there any possibility that the jury votes for the least disliked of the final three? I would hope they set aside personal feelings and vote for whomever played the best game. Now, Kahuna, you and I both know that is how Survivor has been played for a very long time. It's a social game above anything else. And it's something I've had to come to peace with because, I've had many seasons before where I believe the runner up or different players have had better seasons than the person who ultimately won the game. Not all of them, but there has been seasons like that. But you kind of just come to the realization that every jury makes up their own rules for what they deem to be
yeah,
the best game or at the end. And it's up to the players to understand the motivations of the people that they're playing with, right? So
yeah.
if you don't understand that the players that you're playing with values loyalty and honesty above anything else, or the players you're playing with are like really big game fans and appreciate strategic moves and blindsides, you have to be able to calculate that in your mind by the personal relationships that you have with people in the game. I hope that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
every season, there may be a different way to win the game. Like one season, the super strategic cut everybody until the end game could win you that game because people respect good gameplay. And then other seasons, you just could have like a season like this one where it seems like people are going to take it very personal to the point where a lot of these players don't even talk to each other outside of the season now compared to other seasons where people have been close. So I feel like there will be a lot of personal feelings that come into play in this season. I just don't see how they're going to be able to sort of negate that, if that makes sense.
Especially this season, it feels like it's way more. There's way more animosity and high
Yeah.
charged feelings throughout. Um, we've seen like the tribal councils get pretty like feisty. And I
Mm.
think a lot of that is because of the chaos agents that have been there, the Qs of the world. Not only
Thanks,
just
Q.
like, yeah, like um, even when he's not being like flat out mean or like the way he kind of approaches people, but just
Yeah.
the fact that he's
It's
blew up
personality
people's game
clashes.
by accident, even, like that's not going to go down well for someone like for the Tevins and the Hunters of the world. They're like what did you do to us? Even if you didn't mean it, even if you were trying to be honorable, like you screwed us, man. Like that's deep. That's $1 million out of their pocket potentially, and everyone there thinks that they would win if it wasn't for this one thing. You know what I mean? If it
Yeah.
wasn't for Q, I would have won. Like they all think that, so they're gonna hold that personally.
Yeah, Daryl here says most of the time the jury votes for who they like more.
Yeah.
And I think the social game is most of the time the most important game. And, you just need to have watched Samoa as a case study, right? Survivor Samoa with Natalie and Russell Hansen. Like, you look back at that,
Yes,
that's clearly she
100%.
played a better social game. She was more liked. I still believe that Russell dominated the direction of that season. Give him credit. You don't have to like the guy. Give him credit. Like most likely, Natalie wouldn't have been in the end if it wasn't for him. Doesn't matter. She played the better social game, so she won the game in the end, and therefore deserves the win. So, like I said, every season will be different for sure. Kiwi Skid says 100 Kuna. She should have shut up or told him. Hinting is the worst option to take.
Yep.
Venus was the cause of her own doom, according to YouTube Bearcat. Totally agree. YouTube Bearcat also says we need more chaos agents in the game. I agree. Like, again, having Q, like, if Q is not a lock for season 50, then I don't know what Jeff and them are thinking. Like, this guy's got to be a lock at this point. Like, the amount of
100%.
drama that he's brought to the season. Can you imagine the Qs, the Emily Flippins, the Carolines of the world all in the same season? It is going to be so good. Like when we see all these players, like even hopefully in the same tribe, yeah, like again, excited for the potential of who's going to come back from the new era if they do end up leaning more new era on that season. Definitely some off-season content coming. We're getting close to the end of this season, Kuna. We're going to do a proper off-season content this time around because there will be a gap. We'll talk about who should come back for season 50 or like what does our dream cast look like. I think there's a lot of things we can talk about as well as something that I don't know if you're aware of this, not Survivor US related so much, Kahuna, but Australian Survivor related. Australian Survivor seems to be potentially at risk at the moment. Oh, you're the one who told me about this.
Yeah. So I did read an article that there's the chance, like it's not looking good for Australian Survivors Channel 10. Industry experts predicting the channel won't even exist in Australia in a few years' time.
Wow.
We just don't have the population to support 3 major commercial channels, and there's a lot of uncertainty in the States at the moment over the parent companies, CBS and Paramount Plus, and the CBS Global or whatever is going through a bit of a shakeup. They're looking to sell, and I think they're saying that Australian Survivor or Australian Channel 10 is going to be one of the cast-offs. Now it may get saved by an investment buyer or something like that. Usually that's what happens, but there's so much uncertainty. We've just had, I don't know if people are aware, but we've just had The Bachelor cancelled. We've had The Masked Singer cancelled.
In
and
Australia,
they've been
in
Australia. And they've been staples, or not The Masked Singer, but The Bachelor's been obviously a major franchise for a long time.
Yeah.
And they're just
Australians
not on
love their love shows. They absolutely love their love shows. So that's shocking. Really hoping that we can find a way to keep Australian Survivor alive because it's a great franchise. But maybe that's a podcast.
Will come and buy it like they did with the thing happens here in Australia where a channel will cancel a show and then another channel will just buy it. Like Farmer Wants a Wife, The Voice Australia, they were all on different channels, ended up on Channel 7. So maybe something like that will happen. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, again, maybe that's I know there's a lot of people in the live here that probably don't watch Australian Survivor, not as invested in it, but maybe a live for another day. Like I said, with some season 50 content, we're getting close to the end of this season. So there's going to be plenty of time to talk about all of this on the channel as well. So for those that are listening right now that are very invested in this season, make sure you stick around because there's going to be some off-season content for the challenge, Survivor, even maybe a lot of some exciting projects coming up on the channel that we'll continue to keep the content coming, even when Survivor's gone this season. Daryl says, I wish Tim was still in the game. I miss that guy. Yeah, Tim was cool. I like Tim. Tim was a fun character. Taken too soon just before the jury, unfortunately. Sarah saying, Chaos is Jeff bringing a cushion at Twizzler to Tribal. Yeah, what is it with Jeff? What is it with Jeff this season and just bringing food to every single tribal council? Like, he really loves torturing them.
You know what it reminds me of? Like, I have 3 kids and my son is 6, right? And he does this thing where, like, he'll do something where I might laugh and it's funny, and then he'll do it 1,000 more times until it's no
they
more
like
funny.
that. Yeah, I'm going to keep going.
Yeah. And Jeff, that's what Jeff's doing. Is the popcorn thing worked? People like that was a bit, and now he's like, I'm just gonna keep doing it. And now it's like, okay, it was funny once, Jeff. Relax, mate.
Yeah. I don't know what he's doing, but in any case, he's having. It seems like Jeff is actually one thing I will say about Jeff. Right, sometimes we're very hard on Jeff on this show, but I actually deep down inside really love Jeff as a host. I think he's a great host. Right, not necessarily always a showrunner. He's right every now and again on some of the show stuff.
One thing I'm disappointed with Jeff in this episode specifically, we had a challenge, which again, to compare to Australian Survival, Gabe, mark down the time. We had a challenge in this episode where there were balls and a snake, multiple balls. JLP would have been dropping so many jokes about balls the entire way through. They're handling their ball. Jeff doesn't do it once.
Yeah, but again, you've got to understand who Jeff makes this show for. He's creating the show for kids. Like, Survivor US is supposed to be fun for kids to watch. I feel like Australian Survivor is the grown-up version of Survivor these days. It's like a little bit more mature. They don't think kids are watching it as often, so you can get away with that. So I'll let Jeff slide. He knows where his target market is at, and he's doing it for that target.
There's a lot of kids out there who'd be laughing their ass off if they heard ball jokes. Like,
Yeah, but mom and dad, if they heard that, they'd be like, okay, you're not watching the next episode, right? So like, and also I think like Australians are a little bit less conservative about those kind
yeah,
of things as well. Like they'll probably laugh with the kids, where I feel like in America it wouldn't land as well. And that's just, I'm not American, so people from America don't hate me for saying that. Like you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I feel like
just a missed
mom and dad in
opportunity for
America
me.
wouldn't like them seeing that, you know. So, but let's see a few more of the comments that are coming in here, because there's been a few. Gabe says 46 winning the trophy for cast that hate each other the most. I think we mentioned that earlier. Andy's saying if there is a tie at the final tribal, the third player casts the deciding vote. That is true. And my brain's hurting to think who those final three people will be, and if it will even be a close vote, to be honest. So I'm not going to do that at this very moment. Q is saying we're losing a lot of our news shorts shows here in New Zealand too. A lot going online instead. We know about that because Mucky, who is our co-host for Survivor Australia, he actually works with one of the channels on that side there now. So, and he's been keeping us up to date. Like, it's very unfortunate to see that. Danica says, I think Zelensky will be back because Jeff keeps talking about him. I think it's the cast that keeps talking about him. Like, the cast keeps bringing up several, and then he's like, Zelensky lives on, because the cast is not allowing Jeff to forget about Zelensky. Jeff's like, I just really want to forget about this guy. And the cast is like, nah. You're hearing about him, you know, basically. YouTube Bearcat says MTV may be a casualty in the Paramount plus CBS mess. Yep, that would be unfortunate. I've seen Matt Rogers is on the summit. That would be fun to watch. Sarah says, yes, more of a season content, please. I love this channel, but don't watch the challenge. Yeah, 100%. We'll definitely be. Stay tuned, Sarah. There's going to be some stuff coming up. There's some things. Let us know if you're watching Australian Survivor as well, because I'm also thinking about doing some Australian Survivor stuff on the off season, maybe getting a couple of friends of the channel back, do a season ranking, but there will be Survivor US content for sure as well. And just trying to pick up a few more comments here as we're working our way through. Carleen saying Australian Survivor Titans versus Rebels was the best Survivor season that I've ever seen, and I have been watching Survivor since Richard Hatch won. Same as you, Carleen. I can't remember, like 11 or something when Survivor first started, or 10, and I remember Richard Hatch winning, and I was like, to my mom who watched it with me, she only watched the first 3 seasons. And then after Ethan's on one, she was like, I'm happy I can die happily now knowing that a great guy won the show. And then didn't keep watching it. But I remember saying to my mom, was like, why did the bad guy win? Like, I couldn't understand it as a kid. I was like, I don't want the bad guy to win. And now I go back and I'm like, I love the bad guys. Like, they're the ones that bring all the fun to the show. Like, I don't know what that says about me growing up and changing my, sort of preferences. Sarah says, watch Keith Nail's season again. Rip Keith. He makes plenty of ball jokes. That's true. Yeah, he does. Keith's amazing. And yes, RIP. Chris saying, I was like 7 and saw Jenna and Heidi strip for peanut butter. Yeah.
See, I was like 22, so I enjoyed that a lot more than a 7.
For different reasons. And I like, listen, Jeff's eyes was wandering back then, but now he's a taken man. You can't do that stuff anymore. When does Survivor AU come back? Only they've just closed, I believe, the applications for the new season now. I think it's closed at around this month, or maybe in the next couple of days it's going to be closing. And then they'll be filming, I believe, between July and August. Normally, that's the time they film. So then we'll see it back on our screens if it doesn't get cancelled next year around February.
So if I'm hosting the show by myself for a couple months in July to August.
Yeah, if I suddenly disappear off the radar, then it's going to be pretty obvious. By the way, work has mentioned to me that there's a project coming up. I may have to go to Barcelona in July, August, just in case,
yeah, that's right. You mentioned that.
Yeah, it's about work if that happens. Yep. So new season of AU Survival will probably come out in early 2025. That is correct. So I wanted to talk about it. A lot of people earlier mentioned the whole scenario with Maria winning, which obviously very big win for her, second immunity win of the season. She's now equal with Charlie for Challenge Beast of the season. Who would have thought in the beginning of the season those would be the two Challenge Beasts?
Another reason for Charlie to turn on her. Like, she is turning out to be the biggest challenge threat, even more than Q, against Charlie. So if Charlie wants to solidify himself and really win, give him the best opportunity to win immunity going down the line, like, Maria's a good person to get rid of as well.
100%. So like I said, she wins. She's got a lot of power in the game. This is not new. She has to pick people to go with her on the reward. And Ben was an easy choice for her because Ben's struggling out there. You could see it meant a lot to him. He was very emotional when he got picked. And then Maria has to make the tough choice, get a third person or a second person to go with her on this reward to get the pizzas. And she says she's going to look out for somebody that has been struggling and that their body is breaking down in the game. And then gets Venus, Q, and Liz to all make a case, which they all struggle kind of to do it. And at first I thought, okay, rock, paper, scissors, great idea, because leave it up to fate. Like, they can't be pissed off at her. But then she doesn't choose Venus and Liz to do rock, paper, scissors. She chooses Q and Liz to do rock, paper, scissors. What was going through her mind?
Scissors was also after pitch your case.
Yeah.
And then about 30 seconds of thinking, and then went to scissors, paper. Like,
Yeah.
what was pitch your case? Like, beg, tell me why and all that, and then not even use it at all. And then
because no one gave her anything. No one gave her anything. So I feel like she was like, okay, that didn't work. I need to try something different.
And then thought about it for so long, and her big answer after thinking the longest time in history that Jeff even points out is scissors, paper, rock. With
It's
Q.
like, no judgment.
Yeah. Wow, that was a choice, man. That was a way to play that game that put so many people offside. When, last week,
I don't think rock, paper, scissors was the issue. I think rock, paper, scissors can work in that situation. I think the issue was the fact that she didn't get Venus and Liz to play rock, paper, scissors.
100%.
But then again, kind of like you said here, would any of them have chosen her? She should have just owned it. Like, she should have just been like, listen, Liz, like, kind of like what Q did. Q owned it, even though they hated him for it. He's like, you're not the person who's close to me. You're not being authentic to me. Why should I choose you? Maria was close to me. Just own it. She didn't own it. She was trying to weasel her way out of owning a decision. She wanted to choose Q.
Yeah, well, the thing is that even if she wanted to choose Q, at this point in the game, when you're leaving those 4 people there to stew in their starvation, like, Q is persona non grata. Q could have done that because no one liked him anyway. He could make the bad decision in their eyes because it didn't matter. Like, he was already at the bottom. He's not going anywhere. Maria should have actually played the strategic game and maybe got Liz on side for the vote against Venus. Like, whatever she wanted to do, you need to have those people with you rather than alienating them further when you know Q's got nowhere to go, no one to turn to. She could have, like, spat at Q and he would still vote with her because he's got nothing, right? Charlie let her off the hook by saying, do the smart thing here. Get one of these other people. You don't need to worry about me. I've got you. And then she goes and gets Q, who's in her pocket regardless. Like, if Q didn't go on this reward, would he have been pissed off and turned on Maria with a belly full of Huckabees? What was it? I forget what this.
I can't remember. Pizza.
Applebee's. I Heart Huckabees is a movie that was like spoofing on that. But yeah, Applebee's. He's got a belly full of Applebee's. He's not going to be pissed off that she gave it to the starving Liz. Like, he's not going to turn against her and vote with everyone else. So that's the play there, you know?
Yeah, 100% agree. Daryl says Venus almost won immunity. Very close. Like, I couldn't believe when she fumbled it right at the end.
That was a joke, man.
And I was thinking when that happened, it's like, that's the difference between winning this game and not winning this game sometimes. It's bloody inches. Yeah. It's inches. Because if she won that, she had immunity. She was always going to play her idol in the next round.
Yep.
That's like a guaranteed final 5 spot for her, basically,
100%.
Instead of going out on 7th. So, so close, a game of inches. Carlene says, in those days, Richard Hatch was the bad guy because we all wanted Rudy to win. The 72-year-old cranky Navy veteran. I liked, you know what? Even as a kid, I like Greg. Greg was my guy that season. The blonde, I think he had blonde hair from memory. Him and Colleen were kind of like off doing their thing the whole time, and he was just funny. And he was the one who was like fake crying when he left. Like, he was my guy that season. And I kind of like. I think I also like Kelly as a kid, which obviously he beat her. But yeah, like I don't know. Like, Rudy didn't. As a kid, Rudy didn't like. I was like, he's grandpa, you know, like, he's grandpa and he's like cranky. So I don't know. I didn't have that same thing, but I could see how it would have been different depending on where you were in life when you were watching it. Sarah says, sure, Chris, don't play us. We know you're going on the show. Just giving a laugh, safe travels. You'll have to wait and see if I show up for any podcasts next year or this year, July, August. Then this is another way to keep people hooked. They're like, we're gonna keep an eye on the show to see if Chris actually shows up. But if I don't show up, it's because of work commitments. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Daryl's saying, if Venus won immunity, I believe that Q or Maria would have gone. Yes, I think so. I think, yeah. Like, where would Charlie have gone? Like, he's been throwing Maria's name out the whole time. Would he have pulled the trigger at that point against Maria or Q? That's the question. You probably have to take out Maria just based on the resume.
But if Venus had won, then Maria wouldn't have been as far down, like, because of that decision. She wouldn't have had that decision that stuffed it up. People would still be saying, like, she's in control, she's the kingpin, all that, but they wouldn't have had the sprinkling.
They don't like you.
Yeah, exactly.
It's personal with Q instead of game. Sarah says, I agree. That's the only reason I think that can cost her votes in. And you can't say you want to pick someone who's hungry when you don't do rock, paper, scissors between Liz and Venus. I think that was the big problem. Victoria saying, Maria saying Liz had rice and was sharing with Venus was a low blow. It wasn't that much rice. Very little rice.
Yeah, she's got rice. Maybe it's just, you know what it is as well? Like, I don't know if I'm just traumatized by being in lower middle management for so many years. And Chris, as a manager, I don't know if you use this in your tool chest as well, but maybe they were asking for more money and they gave him a pizza party instead.
The classic corporate pizza party to keep everybody happy. My company is actually pretty good. Like, when I joined my company, they told me we get lunches for free in the office because they want more people to be in the office. And I was like, yeah, it's probably going to be like sausage rolls or, something like gas food wise, it's not going to be like great. And they do proper cooked meals. So like the pizza thing wouldn't hit the same. Like, I feel like they're used to.
They're like, pizza party, we get great food every day.
Yeah, we get great food. Why are you giving us pizza? But yeah, like, interesting choice here at the immunity challenge. They go back. We spoke a little bit about some of the complaining that happens back at the camp, and Charlie playing into that. By the time they come back, there's a bit of strategy happening around now who's the person that is going to go home. And a lot of this came down, made me feel like Charlie was consistently in the driver's seat of where the vote was going to go. Q was never going to move anywhere. We hardly saw anything of Q until this point of the game. Strategy-wise, they kept us out of a lot of conversations. It was Charlie heavy, talking to different people at different times. Let's talk about ultimately the move that he did make. Like, he was afraid that, he said playing that middle field and then having to make a decision is a double-edged sword that can get you into trouble. Do you think that Charlie, having betrayed the trust of the girls here, that they'll still feel like they need to work with him because they really just don't have a choice? None of them want to work with Q. Maria and Q's close. Who knows where Ben is? Calculating the decision, looking at it in hindsight, do you think like he's still in a good position? Because even me talking through that, I kind of feel like they don't have a choice. I feel like they're still going to have to trust Charlie because they're not going to go to Maria or Q at this stage. And Ben, who knows where his head is in the game?
Yeah, I feel like Ben he's just given off. He's not really playing the game with those. Like, I don't think they can approach him, at least in their head. Like, he's so locked in with Sega vibes and things that don't rock. I don't think he would come across. So Charlie has at least fostered that relationship, and I think if he can get across to Kenzie and Liz that Venus had something. She told me she had she didn't say idol. She said she had something. It was really worrying. I wasn't sure what she was going to do. Maybe you can spin it back. And like you said, they don't have the numbers anyway. So if he does want to come across and sort of lead that, he's going to be able to do it. Like, he's really set himself up in that middle play to go either way he wants. And it's just a matter of which way he wants to and which one will get him further. Because I do think if he goes with Maria and Q and Ben, except for Maria, obviously Q and Ben, he's outplaying them in final trouble. He's beating them hands down. Maria's the only one with the resume, but she's got the hate now. So he might be able to go against her pretty easily as well. Like, maybe, I don't know. I know you said that Maria still looks like she's probably ahead, but in the eyes of the jury, when we're talking about personal feelings, Liz does Venus. Do they pick Maria over Charlie when Charlie's been nice to them and actually talking with them and playing it up and all that? So there you go. Ben is tied with Charlie. So he's got options. Like he really has set himself up for the options there.
Even our audience is divided. Danica says, I think Ben is with Maria. And then Andy says Ben is tied with Charlie. So we've got the audience confused as to where Ben's loyalty is. I actually think Ben is tied with Charlie as well. I think we saw that conversation between Charlie and Ben for a reason. Ben didn't get much content. So whenever he does get content, I'm like, okay, let's see where Ben's head's at. But I do think he's kind of loyal as well. So I don't know if he'll completely turn against Maria. If Charlie made the right case to say, hey, we can't beat Maria at the end, I think he will end up turning against her. So in my mind, Maria is still in danger going into next episode. I do think there is an option where Charlie goes with the girls, pulls in Ben with him, and then suddenly Maria and Q are on the outside. That's kind of where I feel like the storyline is driving. And then Carlene says, what about Q, Ben, and Liz in the final three? I guess anything is possible in the season. I think Ben wins in that final three.
Yeah, absolutely. Ben wins.
And Ben's been rubbing shoulders with a lot of winners in the off season, or after the season. I've seen a lot of photos with him, with winners and like Survivor greats. Like he's doing a lot of it's almost like he's doing the winning tour before it's happened. So imagine that. Imagine Ben pulling the rug from underneath all of these players in the end and then winning. That would not rock. If that happened. It would definitely not rock.
He called Venus a poser again this episode, and it's Ben's ultimate insult, poser.
Yeah, what did you think of the Venus versus Q showdown at Tribal Council? Like them just going back and forth at each other. It was hard to watch, to be honest with you. I'm like, what are we watching here?
It's real too, eh? The hate is so genuine. And again, another I know she probably thinks there's no way that people aren't going to vote for Q with the way that he is. Like, I hate him so much. Surely everyone has to hate him this much and get rid of him. But that's that's even more reason to use your idol, just so you can guarantee that you have that win over this man that you're fighting with so much you can't lose that after going through that tribal council with him. You know what I mean? And she lost it. Like that's a hard thing to.
Q's got bragging rights.
Yeah, absolutely. Like big time bragging rights over her. So
yeah. And then obviously ultimately at the end here, we do see Venus going home. And now that Venus's game is gone, we know she's loved online. There's a lot of people who really love her. She said she did it for, did she say the women of Iran? I feel like she said the women of Iran specifically, not just for Iran. Do you feel like she represented well? Is she someone that you'd love to see come back and play the game again? Like, what's your final thoughts on Venus?
I'm not a fan. Like, I don't know. I do appreciate when people say like, I love someone that speaks her mind and is kind of feisty and says what she says. But to me, a lot of the times it's dumb. Like the way she played, speak your mind, but you're speaking your mind to the detriment of your own game. She's never been in a position where anything really came off for her. She's always been from behind, and it's because of the way she treated people. Like claiming things that really claiming things that weren't hers pissed people off so much. I know she genuinely thought it was her moves, I guess. So, but then to gloat in it and to kind of rub it in people's faces made it worse. Like I didn't like her social game at all. And then to cap it off with the worst strategic play, to be the third in a row to go home with an idol in the pocket is insane. It just sunk her even lower in my sort of estimation of ranking her, kind of thing. She didn't do anything good socially, didn't really do much good strategically, and then capped it off with one of the biggest L's you can take in Survivor. So
jeez, Gona, please don't hold back. Tell us how you really feel.
With an idol in your pocket is like the worst thing to happen in Survivor.
Brutal. I
don't dislike her. I'm not impressed by what she put out in the game. You know what I mean?
I was just gonna say, Q's gonna give you a fall after this.
Sure. As a person, she could be I don't have a problem with her. I just don't think she did anything in the game to justify, like, you know.
I feel like you like Q started the attack on Venus and the Tribal Council, and you absolutely finished her.
I'm on
Like if this
Q's
was
train.
if this was Mortal Kombat, this would have been a fatality, move at the end here by you doing a finisher move on her. But no, listen, for me personally, I'm not like I don't think like Venus wasn't my favorite player this season, and I agree with a lot of the things that you're saying. But because of that, I reckon Venus is a lock to come back because again,
I agree
you
with that.
can't look at Q and say Q if he gets a certain emotion from viewers and from players where people either like him or dislike him. I think Venus is very similar for the opposite reasons to what you and I like. Like we both have enjoyed the chaos that Q has brought to the game. There are people online who really stand Venus and have enjoyed what she's brought to the game. Not necessarily me. I agree with you. I don't think she was in control of her game, but I think that people who have said that, and there's definitely people who agree with you here, like Danica is totally agreeing. Gabe is saying Venus was entertaining player, new era Eliza. I agree. I think Venus is the reincarnation of Eliza on our screens. Like very similar player. Eliza got to play the game twice. I will almost bank on it unless they bring back, because there has been really good players from the new era as well, or entertaining players. I shouldn't say good. There's been entertaining players. She could still go lost in
She's
the shuffle.
entertaining. I'm not saying she's not entertaining, but she's
Yeah,
not good.
good casting. Yeah.
She's
Wasn't
good
my
casting.
favorite this
I
season.
will definitely say that.
Yeah, good casting. And I think there is a chance, like obviously she like how can you be impressed by someone who hasn't won the game? She didn't win the game, so you can't be impressed by the ultimate outcome of this season. But I've said it a few times before, like a Venus gets more time to mature a little bit, because I just feel like she is at that age where, and she's a good looking girl, where she's always had things go her way. So she hasn't gone through the rejection. This is a part of growth in life. Like even if you're a good looking young girl, sometimes people are not going to agree with you. You're not always going to get your way. And I feel like this was that life lesson that she's learned on Survivor. If she comes back,
hope she analyzes this data. Like she didn't do it in the game as much, but data analyst, and maybe that's why she's so not on the social level. That she, like, someone said, Sarah said here that apparently in exit interviews, Tevin and Hunter both said they tried to talk to Venus and include her in things like crabbing and fishing, and she declined and only wanted to talk strategies, but said that nobody talked to her on the show when they actually did. So maybe it's like the data analyst side is she's just strategy. Maybe that was the thing. And we saw
and also because people wanted to switch off. Like people also, like, you can't play a game like Survivor and expect people to only, like, if the only conversation you're having is a strategy conversation, you're not connecting with people on a human level. Like sometimes you just have to have human conversations.
That's what undid Q at, like, when his downfall started, was because he just wouldn't stop. Like he'd come back to the beach and then start going at them again, and it was almost haranguing them into playing the game his way. Like the strategy talk was, there was not. You can have a lot of strategy talk, but it has to be grounded with some social connection as well. You know what I mean? Like, we talk about the social game, but there has to be the connection there first in order to trust the strategy and to buy into the strategy with you. And Venus never had that. She just kept going, this is the play, this is the smart play, let's go do this. When there's no trust there, there's no, like we saw it with Charlie as well. Like you didn't build that trust with your you made the trust worse by thinking you're game botting the system here and teasing it. I don't know if she did that on purpose or she just couldn't control herself to actually let it out of the bag. But either way, like she didn't back up the strategy side with social, and we've seen many times over from season one. It's it's important. Or like you said with Russell, it's important to have that social game there.
100%. Listen, I can't agree with you more. I think I couldn't say it better myself. Daryl here says Q and Venus reunion in season 50.
The way
Venus, I can see them coming back
now. Yeah, I reckon Banu will come back for season 50. The way they
I really hope not. Like, I really, really hope not. That is the way to really kill the momentum of excitement that we have for season 50, is announcing Banu to be a returning player. He does not, like, if there's a player who doesn't deserve a second shot, it's Banu. Like, he's probably the nicest person. I don't need to be seeing someone begging, a grown man begging for their life in the game of Survivor.
That's what we're talking about, man.
Yeah, nah. Carlene saying Venus was so honest. She's very young though, but she is owning her mistakes. Give her a few years of learning and she'll be great. You can't put all brains on young heads. Totally agree. And I think that's what I was saying. Sarah says we can't talk about Liz. Remember, we want her to sponsor this podcast with her big stacks of cash. It's true. Liz is the greatest player of all time. You know, like if Liz comes back, like it's over. Gabe saying Banu and people will revolt. Yeah, as please, let's not get the Banu stuff going. Like we need to get away from Banu, that's for sure. This has been a lot of fun talking about this week's episode, and we've had a great live audience. Thank you so much, everybody, for taking part in the conversation this week. You know, you always give us some really, really good insights and things to talk about. We will be back next week, obviously, to break down all of the action for episode 12. Hopefully, we'll have Jakey Boy back by that time as well. It's more fun making or bullying him on the podcast when he's actually here versus when he's not here, you know, like taking jabs, because we can get a reaction from him. But yeah, I've actually missed talking to Jake. I feel like it's been like 3 episodes because I left for the Spartan race, wasn't here, it was you and Jake holding the fort. Then he wasn't here last week and now again. So it's like, I don't know what his opinions are. I don't know what his takes are. I'm sure the live audience wants to know as well. So hopefully we can get him back on next week as well. But if you're new to the channel, if this is the first time that you've watched it, please consider subscribing to the channel. It's the easiest way to support us and show some support and love here to the channel. The more people we have following the channel, the more credibility we have, meaning the more people we can bring onto the show in the future. And it just shows us we're doing a good job, keeps us motivated to keep pushing ahead and doing this podcast. Please consider liking, putting a notification bell on so you can be informed the next time that we go live as well. And yes, Danica, definitely will do. I hope that she has a great time in Australia and New Zealand.
Happy Mother's Day to all the mums out there as well.
Yeah, there we go. Happy Mother's Day to all the mums out there. I don't know if it's the same everywhere in the world because sometimes Mother's Day is like one of those weird ones that different countries celebrate on different.
I think but US today's or tomorrow for the US, but today in Australia. But yeah, I think US is the same. So yeah.
Yeah. All right, everybody, grab your torches, head back to camp. We'll catch you guys next time. Bye.